Yeah, so it's recording. Okay, so I'll do a quick introduction, then we'll jump straight into the questions, okay?
Okay.
Right, okay. So, what does it take to shatter 98 years of tradition with a single appointment? Today, I'm talking to a woman who didn't just break the glass ceiling, she wiped it out. Jamuna Rani Govindaraju became the first female executive director of the Singapore Indian Chamber of Commerce, an industry's nearly century long history. In a world where being different often means being overlooked, Jamuna chose to be undeniable. She's raised over 2 million Sing dollars for causes she believes in. She's advised governments on the future of work. She's mentored countless of professionals, and she's done it all while navigating the complex intersection of being an Indian woman in Singapore's business landscape. Today, we're talking about the uncomfortable truths of navigating cultural expectations, the reality of having to work twice as hard, and the price of being a pioneer in spaces that was never built for you. If you've ever felt like you had to speak louder, work harder, or be bolder just to be heard, this conversation is for you. Welcome to 84 Musing. Hi, Jamuna.
Hi,
Before we,
Angie.
hi. Before we dive into into the conversation, I'd like to actually have our listeners understand more about your journey, where it all began. Maybe paint us a picture of your upbringing. What was it like growing up in an Indian household in Singapore, and how did that kind of shape your foundation of who you are today?
Okay. Basically, I'm a third generation Singaporean. So I studied and worked mostly in Singapore, but I have had stints in Jakarta and Australia as part of my career. So, being the youngest in a family, I was always pampered, told that education was the most important thing. So, mom gave me all the tuition support for me to get through secondary school, JC, and then I went to university to finish my Bachelor of Arts in Econs and Stats. And then while I was teaching tuition, mom was not very keen in me giving tuition because in Singapore, tuition industry, though it is very profitable, it doesn't come with the medical benefits, annual leave and all that. So I went to NIE to do my postgrad diploma in education. After which I joined teaching as part of the bond for 3 years. After 3 years, I realized that I will not end my life as a teacher. The system was a little stifling, where you have to follow all the government rules, finish the syllabus in time, set papers, and all that. So I decided that that was not the way forward. So I left teaching. And my next career was very interesting. I worked with Teach Me Services, which is a non-profit under Asian Women's Welfare Association, where I worked with physically challenged children for 6 years, integrating them into mainstream school. That is where I found a flair for admin work, doing projects and all that. So that 6 years actually pretty much built my career confidence and all that. And after that, I went to manage two schools in Jakarta for 2 years. Then I came back to Singapore. Again, mom was not very keen uh, in me staying on in Jakarta because she was there with me.
Mm.
Okay, not that dad did not play any role. Dad was more the, as they always say, man of few words, the moral support behind everything. Mom was pretty much the dominant parent in my life. After which, I worked in MDIS under a mentor called Dr. R. Devendran, who's a very, very popular figure in Singapore. I was there for 3 years, and whatever that he taught me is what have shaped my life today. After which, I worked in SIM to do program management, and then mom passed on. So that was a major setback in my life. So I went to do my master's in Melbourne Uni. After which, when I came back, I worked with IC2 Prep House, which was a charity for visually impaired children for 8 years. And then now I am in SICCI. I've been here for 2.5 years. So I think that pretty much sums my life in a few minutes.
Yeah, you've had a very colorful kind of, background, career, and you've just touched all the different varieties of, from teaching to admin to leadership. Yeah, it's very admirable. And it sounds like your mother has really played a vital role in shaping who you are and building this foundation for you. So, you know, you have made history through, your extraordinary kind of career by being the first woman to lead SICCI, an organization that's been around for 98 years, right? Close to a century. So what was going through your mind when you realized you kind of, broke the glass ceiling, changed the norm, and how did you prepare yourself for this weight that you have to carry now?
Okay, actually, when I joined the organization, it was 98 years. This year, we're stepping into our 101 year. Actually, to tell you the truth, Angie, I did not know that I was applying to SICCI. That's how we pronounce SICCI. Uh, the advertisement said they're looking for a leader for a social enterprise. So I had applied as my background was managing non-profit. So when I was called for the interview, I had 5 rounds of interview. And in fact, the panel had impressed me, particularly the chairman, Mr. Neil Parekh, because he's the one who was more concerned about appointing me than myself being appointed. He was like, you're going to be the first female. What happens if you're not able to do your work or you're not able to lead this organization? So that is why we had multiple rounds of discussion. And there was a few things that we put in place to ensure that there was a smooth, orientation for me. Firstly, normally when anyone hits the chamber, there is normally a press release saying that so and so has taken on the position. So that was something that we decided to do away with. Both of us agreed that only do that after we are comfortable and we have sort of confirmed that, yes, this is the way forward. So it actually took us 9 months before the announcement came out.
Oh, okay.
So that made me comfortable. I came in, I quietly did my work, whatever that needed to be put in place, and allowed me to settle down. And also, my predecessor left in June and I joined in November. So it was pretty much the chairman who was the executive director. So he was hand-holding me and guiding me through the whole landscape, because as you correctly pointed out, a trade association and chamber of business has not been my cup of tea. I've always been in the education and the philanthropic landscape. But the only thing that I carried forward was the mindset of service, where I am here to serve the members of the chamber.
Yeah, so it sounds like, based on your rich kind of background and experience, you've always been someone who's always led towards doing something for the community, either through philanthropic work, community work, NGO, and basically the variety of things that you do. What led you to apply for SICCI?
Okay, like what I said, I didn't know I was applying for SICCI. It was a social enterprise, right? So when I went for the interview, when I was called upon for the interview, I said, okay, let me give it a shot. I did all my research. I presented whatever questions they asked. So they asked a very unusual question. The first question they asked was, tell me about your family background. So which I shared that, my parents had passed on. I've got siblings living overseas and, pretty much alone in Singapore. That question at that point in time was a little puzzling, but today I realize why that question was so important, because this particular job is really a 24/7 job, in the sense that your board directors are volunteers, so they pretty much work after office hours. So you have to be aligned to that, which I was because I worked in a non-profit, and there too I worked with board directors. So I was pretty much used to the fact of working after office hours. But the other demanding thing that was required in this job was after office events. There was a lot of events that I needed to attend in the weekends and after work. A lot of networking opportunities. So somebody who has a family will find it difficult juggling this portfolio, which is why I probably understood that question at that point in time. Though when you go for an interview, that's never the first question, right?
Yes, definitely not. And it's nice that they were transparent enough to ask the right questions. So at least you're mentally also prepared for what you're getting into.
Yeah. So that's pretty much why I got into the job. And to tell you the truth, um, till today, it doesn't dawn on me as much as people tell me that, oh, you're the first female after 98 years and all that. I've said this in a couple of interviews and happy to share that a lot of focus is always on the person who's appointed. But let's always step back and look at the panel that appoints. They have made the mindset change that we are prepared to have a female if she is suitable for the job, which is something that I think should be applauded for that bold change that the panel was willing to take, led by Chairman Mr. Neil Parekh and even Mr. Manish Tripathi, who's the chairman of SME Center today and chairman of internationalization. Both of them have been very supportive in my career in SICCI.
So what do you think is the reason why the board has decided to go, with a different route with this appointment now? What do you think is the difference now? And why now?
Okay. Uh, at that point in time when Mr. Neil Parekh took office, 15 June 2022, he set a committee to look for an executive director or CEO. And I think he had a few criteria as to he wanted somebody who was outside the community, who will give a fresh perspective. I have never worked in an Indian organization. I do not have much what you call affiliation to the Indian community, except for my job at MD. I was what you call mentored by Dr. R. Devendran, and he was the Secretary General of MDIS, and at one point in time, he was also the chairman of SICCI.
Mm.
So I think that is pretty much the reason why they had hired me to come with a fresh perspective and see how we can move things in SICCI.
Got it. Okay, so just basically right person, right time.
Yes.
And how does it feel like navigating what may seem like a little bit of a complex environment, I guess, for you, being in Singapore, but in a Chinese dominated commercial environment, being an Indian woman, running the show for an Indian led organization? What are some of the challenges and maybe even opportunities that you think Indian businesses or Indian owned businesses face, that SICCI is helping them navigate?
Okay, as we all say, Singapore is predominantly Chinese based society. We have about 76% of our population who are Chinese. That's a well-known fact. But Indian businesses are thriving with, in SICCI and in Singapore due to the close association with India. And as India is really doing very well economically, Singapore businesses and even Chinese and Malay businesses are seeing opportunities there. Challenges. I've always worked in a organization that has been dominated by Chinese, as most organizations in Singapore are. And since we have studied and grown up in Singapore system, we always believe in meritocracy. So the paper gets you to the door, but after which it's hard work and attitude that gets you where you need to. So till today, my mantra for work has been hard work, honesty, loyalty, passion. some of these things you would have heard, but to put it into practice really makes a lot of difference in navigating any landscape.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And because I know you mentioned earlier, the first 9 months, keep your head down, do your job, and earn your stripes, kind of a thing, right? But was it really what happened? Like, what was the first three things you knew you had to do or implement to actually really evolve SICCI to be a lot more relevant to this day and age?
Okay, the three things that I think I really focused on was mindset, engagement, and visibility.
Mm,
Mindset, SICCI was always seen as a static legacy organization where uh, basically business who have predominantly done well for years are members. Today, we have 60% of our members who are SME, small, medium enterprise. So I wanted to make the organization very dynamic and relevant for the younger businesses to be part of SICCI. The other thing was engagement. When I took office in November 2022, I faced a challenge with renewals because it was just out of COVID. There wasn't many activities.
mm.
So in 2023 and 2024, we had close to about 30 activities for members. And this 5 months, we have already completed about 26 activities.
Oh, wow. That's real
So
engagement.
yes, so I think all this has made a difference to the members. They find that yes, SICCI is trying to engage them, help them navigate to become better businesses and more profitable. The other thing is visibility. SICCI, as I told you, was something that had a legacy, but I wanted to make it more modern, inclusive, and agile business chamber. So basically engaging with the youth, engaging in LinkedIn, Facebook, and all that. So we made a purposeful shift, and today I would say we have achieved at least some level of success.
Okay, no, that's really good to know, and it sounds like you're very, very clear on what you needed to do from the get-go, and you've been implementing it. So kudos to you. Now
Thank
let's
you.
shift gears a little and talk a little bit about the cultural nuances that you have to navigate. We know India is often categorized as a patriarchal society, and as a Singaporean Indian woman, how different has your experience been since taking on SICCI? And what kind of dynamics you've had to navigate being a lady, being Indian in this whole journey?
Okay, predominantly it is male dominated. In fact, till today, out of 17 board directors, I only have two female board directors. And I think, like what I said, the leadership of the chamber is very important. Mr. Neil Parekh gives me an opportunity to voice out my concerns, my thoughts, and at the end of the day, whatever decision he makes, whether it is aligned to my thoughts and interests or not, I will have to execute it as the director. So that's the way I have put myself. But I would say, yes, it is a difficult job in the sense that they find it a little difficult listening to a woman, hearing her thoughts, and I'm not somebody who keep quiet. Um, I'm very bold. I will share my thoughts, even though that may not be a crowd's favorite. And I hold compliance very close to my heart. So these are the things that, as business owners, they find it a little difficult to navigate because when you are a business owner, you make decisions. But unfortunately, in a chamber, it is a collective decision that we all have to make. Yeah, so these are some of the issues
And
that.
do you feel like there's a difference in in your opinions, or how people perceive and receive your opinions from an older generation to the difference between the older and younger generation? Do you feel there's a little bit of difference?
Yeah, the younger generation, I think they don't really see this gender bias. They probably see it as a person who's doing the job. The older generation, yes, because like what I said, they have been ingrained in a mindset where it has always been a man who does the job, and unfortunately, I think it is always the board that tells the executive director what to do, whereas this is more a consultative style, and we do what is best for the chamber. So there was a mindset change that was required from the board of directors.
And do you feel like, you have to speak a lot louder, you have to work a bit harder, you have to be a lot more bolder to kind of earn your respect at the table?
Speak louder, yes, sometimes, because when you speak louder, only it gets heard. Okay, so I would definitely say yes. The other thing about being bold, I think, like what I said, I have been trained by this mentor, Dr. R. Devendran, where he taught me never to fear for anything when you're doing the right thing. So I never had that fear till today when I do or make decisions, because um, whenever you have honesty and integrity backing your decisions, I think there's no need for you to fear anyone.
No, that's really nice to know that you're led with so much of conviction. Um,
Yes. And I
so
think there's one more question that you had asked. I think about hard work. Yes, be it man or woman, everybody has to work hard. But I think what makes the difference is the passion.
mm,
Today, my life pretty much revolves around SICCI. So, I think that passion has made a lot of difference to the initiatives that I do, because members are aware that, when there is an issue, they can always reach out to the chamber for assistance.
that's good to know. No, and you're right. I mean, hard work takes us a long way, right? So regardless of gender. So now, I am very interested to know because, again, you've had a very colorful career, and particularly, teaching as your kind of like cornerstone, the foundation of where it all started, and teaching in various different styles, with, um, challenged children to, kids in Jakarta, Singapore. So how do you feel your your years in teaching has helped shape your leadership, or have you seen any unexpected lessons from your teaching days that you apply in leadership role, and that's been very successful in managing teams and building that organization culture and stuff like that?
Okay, I think the one thing that I'll probably bring along with me throughout my journey in my career life is that everyone has a potential. So when I start working with any team member or staff member, I have that 100% faith that they are there to do the job and all that. I'm willing to coach, I'm willing to train, but it all comes to a point where the person must also be receptive to accept all this. And after some time of coaching and training, I feel that the staff is not able to match the way I work, or differing personalities, then I am prepared to take the bold decision to let the staff go, because I think at the end of the day, it is very important to work in an environment where everybody is happy.
No, yeah, and I think, as business owners, you have to actually know at which stage and what's right for the business.
Yeah.
Obviously, while keeping in mind also what's right for the organization, right? So, yeah. Um, you have, like I mentioned earlier, have successfully raised almost 2 million Sing dollars across all the various initiatives you had done in the past. It's absolutely impressive. So what's the secret to, successful fundraising, and some of the crucial relationships that you've had to build, and what's your secret to those partnerships?
Okay. So most of my fundraising was done when I was the executive director of IC2 Prep House. When I took over IC2, we had only about 20 students, 750,000 bank balance. So to sustain the operations, I had to do fundraising, as you know, with all charities. The first and foremost thing that I did was the consultative fees for each session was $45. So I made a proposal to the board to bring it down to $5.
Mm.
Okay, and my reason was if you were to provide a door-to-door service at a nominal price of $5, when the actual cost is definitely probably 10 times or even 20 times more, donors will see a value and donate towards the cause. So that was one of the premise that I set myself up. Secondly was sensory disability, where I was working with children who are visually impaired and children. These two causes normally tug the heartstrings of donors. So all these three factors was the reason why I was able to successfully fundraise for IC2 when I was there.
And that's brilliant. Just the small little tweaks, right? But it's amazing how you understood it and you saw that human connection that would actually make that shift. So that's brilliant. So, but where did that all come from?
Actually, if you ask me now, I really don't know. I just went in and I was telling myself, I have this task of doing fundraising, and how am I going to speak to donors to tell them that, you know, I am offering professional service at a very nominal price. And how do I then navigate this landscape? So I probably sat down and thought about a few ideas, and I worked through that. And fast forward now that I'm in SICCI, again, I have to do sponsorships to cover corporate costs. And that's how we run the chambers, as you know. All membership driven changes
Yeah,
chambers are solely depend on membership and sponsorship. So
sponsorship.
here what I did was an annual sponsorship. A lot of chambers do one-off sponsorship, where you sponsor an event, they see your logo, whereas what I did was an annual sponsorship where the members will get to see your logo for all the events. So
Mm,
that has been quite successful in 2023, 2024, and of course 2024 being our centennial year was a bumper year for us.
nice. Well, if you ask me if I had to narrow it down to what kind of led you to, all these brilliant ideas is women's intuition.
Yeah, and probably some prayers, I believe a lot
I'm
of
sure.
prayers. Yeah.
So all the work that you had done, and you were in IC2 prep house for what, almost 8 years.
Yes,
Yeah. So and the prep house is basically for the visually impaired community, right?
yes.
So which means it's kind of like a social enterprise. So what's your why behind your what's your driving force to keep giving back to the community and doing all this social work?
Actually, I think till today my two passion lies with education and non-profit. And even in SICCI, when I came on board, there was this subcom or entity called SICCI Cares, where we do philanthropic activities. And in 2023, we raised 750,000 for Narayana Mission. And in 2024, being our centennial year, we raised 100,000 for Garden City Fund, where we planted about 350 over trees all over Singapore. Because for 100 years, we wanted to do an initiative that continues through the generation. That's why we picked Garden City Fund and did tree planting. So that has always been in me, education and non-profit. And also in SICCI, we do run a lot of training courses and seminars on complimentary basis for members, where we invite expert speakers. So it's always about giving back to the society. I think I find a lot of fulfillment and satisfaction in that.
And that's beautiful because in a day and age where everybody is just trying to make more money, and build a lot more an empire for themselves, just to find people that are doing this selflessly and wanting to kind of put the community first is it's absolutely beautiful.
I think that also stems from the fact that I'm single, and I don't really need to leave a legacy behind in that
Here's
sense.
your legacy.
Yeah, legacy in the terms of wealth, I only need to ensure that I have enough for my own retirement. So I think that probably has a different mindset compared to a women who has family, where like what you said, she probably will be more interested in building a family and wealth for herself and the next generations.
Yeah. So what do you think is that one, in your years of leadership, right? What do you think is that one human skill or, that emotional intelligence trait that, you believe is, absolutely necessary, non-negotiable for somebody to be successful?
Okay, I think the three things that we need is self-awareness, to know what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are. To be able to identify your weakness is, I think, definitely a key point, and to ensure that you acknowledge that as your weakness, and let people know that you are a jack of all trades but master of none, and work towards that. And also ethical leadership, where you drive adaptability, you drive focus projects, and you keep your team informed. I always believe in open communication, where the team is updated on all developments so that they are with you and we all travel the journey together. So I think these are some of the key things that is very important for me to navigate any landscape.
No, yeah, that's true. And I think those traits will stand the test of time,
Mm.
regardless of, how the future is going to roll out, AI or not AI. I think those traits are very, very important to get ahead in life. And what if you could sit back and think about that one time where you feel like your leadership style was put to the test, that you had to navigate uncertainty, probably in the middle of COVID, and you had to really kind of push the boundaries. Was that one time where you felt like, yeah, really the your leadership was just really put to the test?
Yeah, I think COVID was definitely a period of time where, not only for me, I think for every leader, uh, they had to face that pressure, because COVID gave us a lot of disruption and uncertainty. So we had to respond uh, with agility and empathy. And also, what I did was I pivoted towards a purpose, where, when we were working with physically, oh, sorry, when we were working with the visually challenged children, that purpose was what drove us through that difficult period.
Yeah, so I think that your why is very important.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay, that brings me to my last question actually. Um, I know that you actively mentor younger younger people. What would the one advice or no advice in general you'll give a young Indian woman who wants to drive change, wants to lead, but feels intimidated because the environment she comes from, or the traditional business kind of setting, or the cultural expectations that she's kind of had to navigate? What would your advice be?
Okay, basically, I would say, um, don't shrink to fit. Basically, stand tall, and know where you are, what uh, your values are, use your voice, and note that culture is a foundation and it's not a cage. So don't use your culture as a cage, use it as a foundation and move on. And it is very important for you to know what is it that you want to do in life. Once you have that purpose and you know, just walk with your head held high. And if you have integrity, honesty, hard work, loyalty, and passion, you will be able to navigate any journey, however challenging it is.
Nice, nice. So that's pretty much it. It brings us to the end. Thank you so much for all your sage advice. And
Thank
it's
you. And
really nice to know that women are shaping and changing the business environment. And I really can't wait to see what more you bring to the table for SICCI.
thank you. Thank you so much for the time and giving me this opportunity to do the interview.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to end this recording. Studio recording.